The background and context of the spy balloon incident, how it was detected and tracked by the U.S. military, and why it sparked a diplomatic crisis between the U.S. and China. The spy balloon incident was a major security breach that exposed the vulnerability of the U.S. airspace to foreign surveillance. It also strained the already tense relations between the U.S. and China, two superpowers competing for global influence. The incident began in early February 2023, when a Chinese balloon entered the U.S. airspace from Alaska. The balloon was about 200 feet tall and had solar panels that could power active intelligence collection sensors. The balloon was able to transmit data to Beijing in real time, according to U.S. officials. The balloon was detected by the U.S. military, which tracked its movements across the country. The balloon was able to maneuver and purposely fly over several military bases, picking up electronic signals rather than taking pictures. The balloon also reportedly hovered over the Midtown Manhattan headquarters of Fox News for several days. The U.S. military tried to limit the balloon's intelligence-gathering abilities by jamming its signals and sending fighter jets to intercept it. However, the balloon proved to be resilient and elusive, evading capture for days. The U.S. government also contacted China through diplomatic channels, demanding an explanation and an immediate halt to the balloon's operations. China claimed that the balloon was a civilian weather balloon and that the U.S. overreacted by shooting it down. The balloon was finally shot down by a U.S. fighter jet off the coast of South Carolina on February 4, after flying over the continental U.S. for more than a week. The U.S. military recovered the electronic mechanism and key sensors from the balloon, which were believed to be used for intelligence gathering. The FBI is analyzing the wreckage to determine what information China had received before it was destroyed. The discovery of the Chinese spy balloon led U.S. officials to be on high alert for other potential foreign intelligence-gathering devices flying in U.S. airways that were not detected by radar. The U.S. Defense Department said that China operates a fleet of balloons around the world, and that some of them had flown over more than 40 countries across 5 continents. The incident triggered a diplomatic row and led U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken to cancel a trip to China that was planned for February 6. The U.S. accused China of violating its sovereignty and international law by conducting unauthorized surveillance over its territory. The U.S. also demanded a public accounting of China's balloon program and its intentions. China denied any wrongdoing and accused the U.S. of provoking a confrontation and escalating tensions in the region. China said that its balloons were used for scientific research and environmental monitoring, and that the U.S. had no right to shoot them down without warning or justification. The spy balloon incident added to the long list of disputes between the U.S. and China over trade, human rights, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Xinjiang, South China Sea, cyber attacks, and COVID-19 origins. Blinken is scheduled to travel to Beijing this weekend, in an attempt to reset relations with China after the spy balloon incident. He plans to meet with Foreign Minister Qin Gang and potentially President Xi Jinping amid historically poor U.S.-China relations. Blinken is expected to raise concerns about China's aggressive behavior and assertive policies that challenge U.S. interests and values. He is also likely to seek cooperation with China on global issues such as climate change, nuclear proliferation, and pandemic response. The spy balloon incident has shown how fragile and volatile the relationship between the U.S. and China is, and how easily it can spiral into a conflict or a crisis. It has also highlighted the need for dialogue and communication between the two sides, as well as mutual respect and understanding. The outcome of Blinken's trip will have significant implications for the future of US-China relations and global stability. The cancellation of Blinken's trip to Beijing, his phone call with Wang Yi, and the implications for the US-China relations on major issues like Taiwan, trade, human rights, and regional security. The US-China relations have faced new difficulties and challenges this year. One of the reasons is the appearance of a Chinese spy balloon over the U.S. airspace in February. The Pentagon said it posed no threat to the U.S., but it sparked a media frenzy and political backlash. Secretary of State Antony Blinken canceled his planned trip to Beijing after the incident. He said it was a violation of U.S. sovereignty and international law. Blinken wanted to go to China to prove that the two countries can manage their competition responsibly. He hoped to discuss major issues like Taiwan, trade, human rights, and regional security with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi. But he said China undermined the trip with its actions. China claimed that the balloon was a civilian research vessel that veered off course. Wang Yi blamed the media and U.S. politicians for trying to discredit China. He said the U.S. and China need to work together to avoid misjudgments. Blinken decided to reschedule his trip to Beijing when the conditions are right. But that could take a long time. The spy balloon incident has made it politically harder for Blinken to get any business done with China. It has also added more tension to the already strained relationship between the two powers. The U.S. and China have many disagreements on issues like Taiwan, trade, human rights, and regional security. The U.S. supports Taiwan's democracy and opposes China's military threats. The U.S. accuses China of unfair trade practices and intellectual property theft. The U.S. condemns China's human rights abuses in Xinjiang and Hong Kong. The U.S. challenges China's territorial claims and militarization in the South China Sea. Blinken has said that the U.S. will compete with China when it should, cooperate when it can, and confront when it must. He has also said that the U.S. will not let China write the rules of the international order. But Blinken also recognizes that the U.S. and China have common interests on some global issues like climate change, nuclear non-proliferation, and pandemic response. He has said that he wants to have candid and constructive dialogue with China on these areas. Blinken's trip to Beijing could have been an opportunity to test whether the U.S. and China can find some common ground and reduce the risk of conflict. But the spy balloon incident has cast a shadow over that possibility. It remains to be seen whether Blinken and Wang Yi can resume their communication and rebuild some trust in the future.